Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Triple Threat Comics YouTube channel. I'm your host, Ian Miller. Tonight, I am here with Nick Thompson, who is the writer and creator of Deadgene. Nick, welcome to the show.
Hey, Ian, thanks again for having me.
Oh, absolutely. I was looking forward to you coming on the show originally. Originally, you were supposed to come in early of April, but unfortunately, I was not feeling well at the time, so I had to reschedule it. I'm so glad that we're having this conversation.
Yeah, likewise. Things happen, but the reschedule like got me excited. Either way, we're here.
Exactly. Yeah, so I do have to ask this question to, new guests. What made you want to become a writer of comics?
Well, actually, I was always fascinated by telling stories, but comic books wasn't my first option, believe it or not. I was more into trying to write screenplays or write books or write even video games was something I was really into. But comic
Yeah,
books just they followed me everywhere I went. I was a young kid and my mom bought me this like artist set for children. I guess it was like a cartoonist set. So I
oh,
used to draw like these crappy folded pieces of paper with like Batman, like terribly drawn, crudely drawn for my friends to read, and they'd be like, "Oh, what's the next one?" And I guess it just kind of been with me my whole life. And my brothers used to read them. That's how I really got into it. I'm the youngest of four brothers.
wow.
So my older brother used to have a little collection for me. Well, not for me, but it was from me. And then they were he used to keep them in his closet, hidden away from me. And when he used to leave, I used to go and be that younger brother who goes, opens up the treasure chest, it's all lighting up. Hopefully, I could finish a couple of Spider-Mans before he gets home. And
Oh, that's great.
yeah, it kind of came to me really. I met artist Hio Kim through an Instagram post. We both really love Metal Gear, the video game series. And I,
Yeah,
I was going through some hashtags and I seen his artwork. And at the time, I was just looking for an artist, getting a million no's, getting a million rejections. And this guy took a chance with me. And we started our first comic book, Yofo, with zombies. It's like a little zombie story. We want to just, play it simple.
yeah,
And I guess it just kind of from there, we just never stopped. It's been with me. And then now I'm just, taking it a little more serious than I ever did, try to, do these with these campaigns and trying to build an audience and a fan base.
yeah. I remember last time you were doing a Kickstarter for Dead Gene, which was your newest comic, and that was issue one.
Mm.
And it was a very successful run. And you obviously generated a bigger audience with that. Could you tell us about Dead Gene?
But yeah, Deadgene is something that came to me just through listening through 80s music. I was just inspired. Sometimes you get inspired by the craziest things. And I was listening to some 80s music. I'm thinking to myself, man, I always wanted to kind of dive into time travel. I never had a time travel kind of story. And I was a big fan of Days of Future Past. I was a big fan
Ooh,
of a lot of time travel stories. And I grew up with the X-Men animated series. And, there was a lot of time travel series episodes in those. And at the time, I'm watching Cowboy Bebop. At the
ooh,
time,
that's
and I'm
another good
thinking
one.
in my head, I'm like, man, I want something cool like this as well. So I put them both together. So now I have a time traveling story that follows two, I guess you could call them protagonists. They go back in time and they're trying to prevent a catastrophic event. Which is it sounds like a story you heard 1,000 times, but this time I wanted to. The way I seen it, I guess, is the best way to start is from X-Men. The way people seen mutants in X-Men with the prejudice,
Mhm.
the way people kind of treated them like they were so bad, so filthy. But in my eyes, watching the cartoons, I was like, they're not really that bad. Like
No, no,
they
no.
they're fine. They could do things that are potentially terrible, but so can we all. It's just human. So I was like, I want to make a story where the mutants are actually bad. you know So
Ooh.
so what the dead gene can do is it's like a DNA of these humans. They mixed in a DNA from an unknown source. Well, the book will tell you eventually, but they mixed in these DNA, these humans, in an attempt to cure things and heal, viruses and diseases. But it went wrong,
Ooh.
and now we have these humans that are being born into the world that are they have these abilities, which are not like superhero abilities. They're more like paranormal. So I try to get a little creative with them. We'll talk a little more about that too. But what I wanted to do was create a race that is just bad for the world. So the dead gene can turn a common cold into something far more dangerous for us. It could be contagious to humanity, and it can advance things that, like a common cold, it can advance it and turn it into something far more horrible for us. And it
Oh
does.
boy.
And it does. So what we did was we sent time travelers to go and eliminate the cause. And that's pretty much what Dead Streets is about, is two time travelers going back in time to basically stop the first ever man-made created Dead Gene hosts.
Oh boy.
It sounds a
It's
little polluted, but it's pretty cool. It's very exciting.
yeah. It sounds like it has the vibe of a buddy cop movie where going back in time and dealing with these horrible things, but it's kind of like Days of Future Past meets Resident Evil as well.
Hey, that's a good way of looking at it with the buddy cop situation. I guess you can say Stasis and Jet have that kind of buddy cop vibe too, but they also both know that this is a job,
Yeah.
and they're very determined. Like Stasis is an android, she was built for this, so nothing's going to stop me unless you can come up with something better than this plan. But as I see it right now, nothing's going to get in my way. And in the book, you're going to see both characters kind of do uh, some rude things that good characters don't really do. Good guys don't really do. And Jet is also a Dead Gene host himself, but he's
Hmm.
advanced because he's from his timeline, and he hates his own race because of what they do. I guess it's a bit of a spoiler, but it's okay. He has his mom was a Dead Gene host as well, and she had
Wow.
a fever, and her fever progressed because of her DNA and became very contagious. So they took her dying body and they basically just exposed of her. And there was nothing he really could have done. And he got wild and mixed with rage and got himself in prison. You could read it. I'll tell you how in the book, but he got himself in prison. But they're like, hey, we need a guy who can go back, who hates his own race enough and has some kind of ability and have some kind of experience of doing this. So they sent him back in time along with Stasis because he was the perfect candidate. So I guess he's got a little bit of hate for his own kind too, So doing this is like a good thing in his eyes, in his perspective.
Yeah, so he's a more personal stake in this.
Yes, it's more personal to him because he believes that if he didn't exist and this never happened, his mom could have been a normal person. She could have lived the fever. So he's a mixed bag of emotions with some mommy issues.
Yeah, obviously the stakes will be raised high as the issues go on. But yeah, this has the makings of a very epic story.
Mhm. That was my goal. Yeah, was to try to make it epic, but it's very visceral. It's action packed, and it's unapologetic. And I'm hoping that people who read it can have a really good time in this first volume. This first volume was more focused on fun and just kind of getting you to know what type of characters these are.
Yeah, and I can imagine the second issue you were gonna get to the heart of the story.
Hmm. The source of the dead gene is where I'm hoping I could blow some minds.
Well, yeah, because again, you're trying to be, very original in a genre. You're meshing two genres together, but one of them is so insanely, saturated. With Walking Dead and Resident Evil and stuff like that. You're like, okay, I had to find a way to be original here.
Yeah, definitely. And I think the plot twist definitely screams originality. It's not they weren't just born like this. Something made them this way.
Yeah,
And I think what made them that way, nobody's going to see it coming. I really don't think so. But I hope I get the reaction that I'm hoping for from it.
well, I hope so too, but I think it will because just from hearing about it, it's like, okay, this is definitely something that it's definitely worth reading here because again, you have some original takes on it.
Yeah, and spoiler. I'm just going to spoil it. No, I'm just kidding.
Well, don't spoil it. You gotta make sure that people will buy issue two.
Yeah, volume 2 will be the last volume. There's 2 volumes. The next one's gonna be last. I'm not trying to make a prolonged this is, like I said previously, I was more into, films growing up, and that was really what I wanted to get into, uh, movie writing, screenwriting. So these are basically the movies I never made. So I don't really have, like, a long-term plan, like a universe for them or a multi-issue run. Ninja Turtles, if you believe it or not, I don't know if you remember, but the original run of Ninja Turtles was only like 45 pages. And I
Yeah,
loved
yeah,
that. That was great. A one and done kind of story.
absolutely.
Mm.
And well, here's another thought for you. Um, at some point, you could adapt this comic into an audio drama.
An audio drama?
Yeah,
Oh yeah, that's similar to like a read like a narration kind of, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I thought about doing that for my last book, Don't Eat Meat, because it's pretty interesting of a story of its own. It's got that noir vibe to it. But the option's always open.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so you said that there's only going to be two volumes, and obviously, have you written the second volume, or you're in the process of it?
I'm halfway done with it. I've got the third chapters done. It's complete. Hio's actually drawing it right now. He's coming up with some pretty cool concepts. Um, by the way, Hio's artwork, I mean, it matches this comic book so well. But to answer your question, yeah, I haven't begun chapter 4 yet, but I kind of know where to go. I have some pinpoints and I've been planning it for quite a while now. So I'm ready to tackle it any moment.
That sounds good. Yeah, I remember seeing some of the pages. When the Kickstarter was running, I was like, "Your artist is fantastic."
He truly is something. I don't know how I got so lucky to come across such an artist, and he's also a really good friend too. He's not just an artist. We treat each other like brothers, and we're doing whatever we can to just kind of get each other out there, and help each other out. We know that these comic books are very important, and we're very passionate about it. I think it bleeds through the pages.
Yeah, and yeah, it's actually good that you have a camaraderie with other creators that you're working with because it helps make the process much better. In the long run.
Yeah, definitely. You could see it around you too. A lot of people sometimes they struggle to find these artists. It's not an easy game to get into, but with Hio, it feels so seamless.
Yeah,
He
absolutely.
perfectly captures everything. I never had to correct any of his art or say, "Hey, I need this changed," or "Hey, I don't like this angle." It just he if it's not exactly the way I imagined it, it's better. Yeah.
Yeah, I have noticed that as well. When I've handed out scripts to other artists, that if I'm not drawing it myself, I'm like, you know, just go, feel free to change anything you want, in there, just art wise. But sometimes I would get pages, where I was like, I don't know how they did it, but that's exactly how I imagined it.
Yeah, it's insane, and the longer you work with them too, the more they kind of get your idea. It's amazing
Yeah,
to be able to draw something somebody wrote like that. It really is quite a craft, and it should be well respected.
yeah, absolutely. And that's another great thing about the indie community. I know we talked about this a little bit before the show started. You know how close we are, how supportive we all are to each other's projects.
Yes, yeah, we really gotta support each other. The littlest support means the most to us. It's hard for us to market our books and get out there. We're not like a big studio. Most of us are making these comic books in our basement, and doing it on our free time. We're doing an 8-hour job coming home drawing comics or writing comics. So a little bit of motivation, like your viewers too, awesome. You guys are awesome. This is exactly just a little taste of someone saying, hey, that's good work. Good job. It goes a very long way.
Absolutely. I definitely remembered, when the Kickstarter was running, I definitely made sure that I shared the Kickstarter with everybody as much
Mhm.
far as I could, just to
Yeah.
make sure people would get, the idea and get into this comic because it just looks spectacular.
Well, I hope the writing can match the looks. We'll see where that goes from there.
I'm sure, I'm sure the writing is, up to par with the art. I have no doubt of that.
Thank you so much. And like you said too, if you can't support the Kickstarter, a share, a like, and a comment. Not to sound like a cliche YouTuber, they go a long way. Um, you know, it raises the spirits.
Yes, it does. And it gives you, that strength to say, okay, there are people that are interested. Let's just deliver. Let me get to the end.
Yeah, sometimes that's all it takes. I was on the verge of quitting many times, and it just took maybe a comment or two to just pull you right back in.
I've heard that story so many times. I've done it myself. I've been on the verge of quitting, but then I get, random people that just, obviously love my work, love what I'm doing, you
Hmm.
know, and obviously I got a very good support system in my family. And I said, don't get up, don't give up, don't give up. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to give up.
Yeah, definitely. It goes a long way. I believe Stan Lee was on the verge of quitting too before he wrote Fantastic Four, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Or it's the X Men. I mix them up. And it was just such a wild success. He said, "You know what? I'm staying in. I'm not. I'm not running out anytime soon." The same for Robert Kirkman. He
Yeah.
was ready to quit. He was done. He did 3 or 4 books before Walking Dead. He went in the factory and he was ready to apply for that factory job. He said, "You know what? I can't do this. I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna write one more, and let's see where it goes." And it was The Walking Dead. so, keep it up. Keep it up. You never know. We have keys to doors we didn't previously have, and I think that's what matters. And if you don't see any kind of success at the end of the day, you're sitting in your rocking chair, you got Deadgene, and you're like, man, I didn't try, I succeeded, and that's enough.
Yeah. It's
So,
funny we were talking. It's funny we were talking about Robert Kirkman because he was actually a makeup artist, a special effects makeup artist, in Hollywood before, he
wow,
started his writing career. Yeah, he actually did Evil Dead 2.
no
He was
way.
one of the make. He was one of the makeup people. Swear to God, you look it up,
I'd love.
on yeah,
Yeah,
that,
no, that's amazing.
yeah, that was one. That's one of my favorite horror comedy movies.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, the first one's cool, but the second one
Yeah,
just takes it to that level, with the
absolutely.
chainsaw and everything.
Absolutely, and it really bugs me. When Army of Darkness came out, it didn't say Evil Dead 3: Army of Darkness. It just said
Yeah,
Army of Darkness. I was
yeah,
like, the fans are not going. The people are not going. Connect Evil Dead 2 with Army of Darkness. So I was like, wow.
and they did it. They did it. I know I didn't growing up in the 90s. I thought they were two different movies, but when I found out, I seen them with that boomstick. I was like, "Oh, wait a minute, hold on, wait."
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Hmm.
But yeah, again, different background from what he was doing. Then all of a sudden, big success. With Walking Dead, multiple spin-offs.
Oh yeah, yeah. The Walking Dead show, definitely.
Yeah,
Some of them not so great.
some of it. No, I
Hmm.
don't think some of it translate pretty well. Some comic book moments obviously was in the show. Those moments I actually hang on to a bit more than others.
Yeah, yeah. About that too. I'm a big Walking Dead fan. I read all of the comics. Not a fan of the ending, but I read all of them. And the show just feels like a completely different entity. I'm still waiting for that movie where it's more a fateful of an adaptation. I'm still holding on, hoping we get a real Rick Grimes, not that Andrew Lincoln did a bad job. Just he's not Rick.
Well, it wasn't what you were expecting, and that's another thing that we should actually talk about. Doing adaptations to comic properties. I'm gonna give you. Let's put your comic as an example. Let's say this was going to be adapted into a movie.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Now,
to believe it or not, I had a producer come to me, but he worked on Amazon. He wanted to make a cartoon out of Deadgene, exactly the first issue. He called me, we talked about it, and I guess I botched I was not a salesman at the time. I did not know how to sell my work. I knew how to make my work. I didn't know how to sell it. So I botched it. But I had the idea of it being an animated series, and what a fun idea, what a fun thought. Just almost knowing you were there, you could grab it. But
yeah.
yeah.
Well, never give up. Never give up. Maybe you get another chance.
Hey, you never know. I still got his number.
There you go.
I'm all stalking him. Hey, no.
No, no, don't do that, folks.
Yeah.
Don't. I don't recommend doing that.
That's one way to not get your foot in the door.
No, 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 no.
No.
But yeah, yeah. Obviously, you'd want a pretty good adaptation to your property, but of course, otherwise we'll have some ideas, and then you think, okay, that's not too bad. They're not veering too much away from the source material. They kept the spine intact. There's
Yeah.
only adding a couple of things here and there just to make it a bit fuller, but still not too bad.
Well, another example, Walking Dead again. They made a lot of changes, but at the
Yeah,
beginning, every episode they tell you based on the graphic novel created by Robert Kirkman and Charlie Adler. And I mean, I'd make all the changes you want. Just put that at the beginning of every episode. I'm happy. I'm happy.
yeah, absolutely. Because again, you got the creator credit there, saying, okay, also
I'm,
gets people interested in the comic.
yeah, exactly. How many people tell you that the book was better? I would gladly be that guy.
There you go. There you go.
Being like, I was the book is better guy. Some bragging rights. I'm a bit of a nerd, man. I'm a goof.
Hey, I'm a nerd too. We were nerds before it was cool to be nerds.
Oh yeah, yeah. I make it look uncool though, so it's all right. I'm bringing that back.
Oh, God. Oh, man. Oh, man. Okay. So currently in the writing of volume 2, you finished chapter 3, you got the artist working on that, on the verge of writing chapter 4. Okay.
Mhm.
So obviously there's going to be one and done, series, but you got anything planned after that?
Oh, for Deadgene, I do have a game that I'm working on. I want to make a Game Boy game for it. It's a spin-off series that takes place in the era that they're trying to prevent. And it's still in the process of it, but I'm hoping when volume 2 comes out, you could get both volumes and maybe even this game cartridge. And but other than that, I don't really have much plans for Dead Gene. I mean, the ideas are there, but I like to cross those roads when I get there.
No, it's actually interesting that yeah, because I think I remember you having a discussion on the Sierra Nova chat. We're on the same chat, folks.
Mhm.
Sierra
Yeah.
Nova Comics.
Shout out to
And
Nova.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, I love Greg and Dylan. Those guys are just fun.
Yeah. Greg is awesome. Greg is really cool.
Absolutely.
I love his writing
Uh,
too.
yeah, and Night Watch, I think, ends, I think, this weekend, I think.
2 days exactly. I backed it today.
It's a good comic.
It looks amazing, and Fish is no joke. He is
Uh,
one excellent artist. I had the honor of coloring a couple of his pages, and it's like finding Waldo, all the details in there. There's always something to look at in every page. Fish is
yeah,
amazing.
yeah, he's the real deal. But yeah, I remember you talking about the Game Boy game idea. I was like, wow, nobody's really done that. Because they don't make the Game Boy cartridges anymore. I was like, that's very original.
Yeah, I get that a lot. People, they always get surprised. How do you do it? How do you do it? I just develop them using a engine that's specifically made for Game Boy games. It's a lot of fun. I've been developing games since I was 12. Before I made comic books, I was making video games with like
Wow.
basic scripting engines. So when I came across this engine, I was like, "Oh, this is a no-brainer. I have to make a Don't Eat Meat game." A couple months later, there it was. It's ready to go.
Oh man, now I'm just thinking ahead, the thoughts in my head. I've always wanted to do a Super Nintendo version of my comic, but that's another story for another day.
Hey, no, you're talking to the right guy. But like you said, we could talk about that for hours.
Yeah, absolutely. But no, this I think it's a fun idea. I think would also be a great Kickstarter goal, obviously, or
Hmm.
reward. So yeah, definitely do that because I think there'll be people that'll be very invested in that, saying,
Yeah.
Okay, so he's got a Game Boy cartridge here. Definitely want to check that out, but I also want to check out the comic, see what that's about."
Yeah. I did the campaign for Don't Eat Meat, my previous book, and it did come with a cartridge, and I was very shocked to see how well received it was. A lot of people would be like, "You're selling a game, and your main thing is the comic book?" I'm like, "Yeah, the game's just a tie-in, but it was very good. It's awesome. It's a cool little thing to have. It's a
Yeah,
cool little."
absolutely.
Mhm.
It's also a collector's item.
Yeah, definitely. I love Game Boy games. I'm a really big fan of the Game Boy Color.
Oh man, this takes me back years, man. Because yeah, obviously I'm still a video gamer at heart, but God, now I want to play my Game Boy. I got to pull it out at some point, just play some
Do it.
games.
Do it. You'll feel great, especially if you gotta sit under that lamp to play. It's amazing. You feel like a little kid again. Sometimes you forget. Every life's happening around you. You feel like you're about 10 years old under a lamp again. I love it.
Yeah,
It's a good stress reliever, believe it or not.
yeah. It's the same thing also with me playing Super Nintendo. I'm playing Batman Returns. Like it's 1994. Just being that, or Power Rangers or stuff like that. I was like, wow.
You're talking my language. That's a conversation for a different show.
Yes, it is. I could definitely, we could definitely talk about favorite video games till the cows go home. I will say one last one. I will say one last line. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 4, Turtles in Time.
Oh, oh man, I remember renting that and get myself some nachos while I was at it. Best time ever. Best weekend ever with the brothers.
Yeah.
Sewer level was so hard though.
Oh God, my God.
With the
I
surfboards.
died. I died like 6 times. 6 times.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, talk about a huge deviation from the conversation.
It's okay. Um,
Uh, but yeah, um, I'm very excited for you, Nick. I really can't wait to see Volume 2, and definitely gonna help you promote that when that comes online. Definitely love to have you come back to talk about it. So yeah,
definitely.
absolutely.
Yeah, very excited. I'm excited for everyone to see it. I have a very cool ending in mind, and a lot more action. A lot more action.
That's always the best combinations for me. Yeah, exciting and action, especially with the ending, because you definitely want to deliver, on the climax.
Yeah, for sure. Deadgene's got a really fascinating story. You read between the lines, you may get the ending, but the most important thing for me for Deadgene was not about my writing. It was about making a comic book first. I'm writing a
Yeah,
comic book. I'm not writing a novel. I'm not writing a movie. I'm writing a comic book. And that was the main thing. What do you want in a comic book? And I think I delivered. I'm confident enough to say at least.
well, I hope you did, and considering the amount of people that actually backed the Kickstarter for the Volume 1, I am more than confident that Volume 2 is going to be a smash hit.
Awesome. From your mouth to God's ears is a
Ugh,
saying I like to say.
knock on wood.
Hey, I
But
like that too.
I'm not sure if you hear it, folks, but I'm actually on knocking on wood. So yeah, exactly. There it is. There it is. Yeah, absolutely. Uh, Nick, I can't thank you enough to come on here and talk with us about Deadgene and your other projects.
Hey, I can't thank you enough for having me.
Oh,
Hey,
absolutely, absolutely.
like I said, you get a lot of wonderful guests on this show. I hope I can suffice.
I'm sure you could suffice, and definitely we'll have a conversation about video games. Another episode, maybe.
Anytime. And if you ever want to work together on one, I'm open for that too.
I might take you up on that. I might take you up on that.
We
So,
are a
yeah,
community. We gotta help each other.
absolutely. Speaking of video games, folks, as if we weren't talking about it the last few minutes, I did mention a couple of episodes back that I was going to be doing some gameplay walkthrough on the channel, which is going to be next month. And I've chosen a video game which I think you'll be pleased with it because I have chosen Star Wars Jedi Survivor.
Ooh, all right. I played the first one. Is that the second?
This
Yeah,
is the second one. Yeah.
it's amazing. It's amazing. It's challenging though, very hard. I'm looking forward to that. I am looking forward to that.
Nice. Nice.
I got some audio issues. I'm sorry about that. Looks like you got a mute logo right by you.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that, folks. What
There
happened?
you, there you go.
Yeah. Um. So yeah, as we're saying, yeah. Um. That was I talking about? Yeah. That is it was. Yeah, I did play the first few minutes of Jedi Survivor, but I'm gonna restart it. Just to get the full effect. You know, so it did
Definitely.
play a lot.
I'm looking forward to it. I think walkthroughs are always fun to watch. Sometimes you just leave them on while you're working on comic books. It's the best.
Oh, absolutely. Especially when you're hearing the commentary. But especially when the players is going through the motions, you're like, oh my god, why was I doing this? Why did I say it in this setting? What was I thinking? But yeah,
Yeah,
that's yeah.
it's a difficult game. I remember playing the first one. I had to lower the settings a little bit. I was like, "Oh man, I can't do this." The first boss fight had me.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that's so be on the lookout for that. I know, I mentioned last time I was playing Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. I'll give you my review on that. When I completed that. So yeah, lots something to be excited about this upcoming month.
Hell yeah, you got to support the channel, you know. And like I said,
Absolutely,
it's a very fun thing to watch. Try it when you're working, you know. Leave it on for some background. You know, it's great.
God, absolutely.
Mhm.
And as always, folks, I'm gonna plug in my own stuff. So as many of you probably know, I have a comic book series. It's called Codename Hunter. The link is down below on indieplanet.com. This is issue one. We currently have three issues available on the website. This is issue two. This is issue three. Currently working on issue four with my friend Enrique Lopez, who's doing the inking. So I'm very excited about that. So we're going to be hopefully releasing it this summer. We're going to plan on doing a Kickstarter. I'm not sure if it's going to be May or in June. We're hoping for May. So that's why it's going to be exciting.
Very exciting. I'm excited.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you like James Bond, Star Trek, Star Wars, and even Guardians of the Galaxy, this is the comic for you.
Definitely. And I could see the James Bond trivia on this cover right here.
Yeah.
Got
I
the
was definitely inspired by one of the Bond posters.
yeah, looks amazing. The artwork's great too. Thinking those
Yeah.
covers.
Yeah. Thank you. Obviously I write and illustrate the comics, so yeah. But it's the most fun for me to do. Doing something that's set in science fiction in the future is like, wow, opens up a lot of doors.
Yeah, definitely leaves a lot of room for some good writing.
Exactly. Exactly.
Mhm.
And you'll probably notice another link down below. This is for my storefront on tpublic.com, where you can actually buy a lot of my designs. Yeah. So if you type in Little Ian merch in the search engine, you can find I have a good variety of my designs, not just in Codename Hunter, but also my other character, Little Ian. And it's
Ooh,
more humor related. Yeah. And for those of you who are looking for a good Mother's Day gift, I know some of you are. You might want to check out this latest design that I have, where it's Little Ian giving his mother a Mother's Day card.
oh yeah, I like that character a lot.
Yeah.
I'm getting
Yeah.
spy versus spy vibes.
Very good. Very good.
Yeah, a little bit of Animaniacs thrown in for good measure.
That's exactly what I was looking for.
Awesome. Well, you nailed it.
Yeah. Yeah, because I grew up with Animaniacs. I grew up with Pinky and the Brain. Obviously, the Looney Tunes, they were another influence.
A
Even
man of
even DuckTales, they were another
oh
cartoon I
yeah,
grew up watching.
can't forget about Darkwing.
Oh God, I was obsessed with that. You could tell by the hat, of Little Ian, that's a Darkwing type of hat. But yeah, this is actually the most best-selling one so far.
Oh, I could see why. You got a
Yeah, when
Jaws
Blu-rays
release.
attack. Yeah, just
When
when you think
Blu-rays
that was
attack.
just when you thought it was safe to watch a Blu-ray.
Fantastic. I love it.
Yeah. So like I said, check out T Public. Just type in Lola Ian merch, and there you can find my storefront. Well, folks, I think that's gonna be it for us for tonight. Nick, thank you again for coming on.
Thank you again for having me. It was an honor.
Yeah, always mine. And as always, hit that like button and subscribe. I'm A. Miller, and this has been Triple Threat Comics YouTube channel. Have a good night.